Hey, what's up guys? How's it going? My name is Jay. The youth knows me as Mr. J, and you guys can also call me Kromatopher. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be working extensively with the tools you need to create a beat from scratch. A little bit about my background. I'm a full-time music instructor. I've been doing it in the Bay Area of California for about 6 years. So I teach the youth. I enjoy teaching the youth. So if you're younger and you like music and you like creating, this is for you. If you're more advanced or if you just want to get into it and you're a little older, this is also for you because I'm going to be teaching you everything you need to know to create some sick beats. So today, on this episode, episode 1, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating basic theory tracks and understanding basic theory. It's super important for music. You can't just get in there and start creating without understanding how stuff works. So we're going to create a basic track of understanding how theory works, your notation, your rhythm, and everything of that nature. At the end of these lessons, what you guys will understand is how to create a beat, what it takes to create that beat, and what is needed to create a beat or a song or music, okay? But with that said, once again, my name's Kromatopher, and let's go ahead and get into it. Hey, what's up guys? It's Kromatopher again. All right, so video 1, lesson 1. For this video, we're just gonna talk about all the basics, whether it's your gear or whether it's music theory in general. And by that, I mean the things you need gear-wise just to get you going, and maybe some more advanced stuff to keep you going, and then some theory, music theory that just gets you started, because without music theory, you're just fumbling around and you're just trying to figure out what sounds good, which can work too. But let's go ahead and get into my gear and my laptop, and I'll tell you what I'm working with. So right now, I'm using a MacBook Pro. It depends, preference. People like PC, people like Mac. My main thing, and other producers and musicians would tell you the same thing, is your CPU power. So if you're buying something or whatever you have, make sure it has a strong CPU, okay? And you can look into that, you can Google it for yourself. Reason being, all your music is gonna be very intensive on your CPU. So everything you create, all of your tracks, as they pile up, is gonna get more and more cluttered for your computer, okay? So at the end of the day, think about your processing power in the future. Whatever you have will work today, and I'll show you how. So after that, we have your audio interface. So this isn't necessary at first, but over time, maybe you wanna plug into some speakers and you wanna hear your mix and you wanna hear your music, you need an interface. If you don't have that right now, just plug in some headphones to your laptop and get into it, that's okay. Moving on, we're gonna go ahead and look at the Machine Beat Pad controller, and this is what I use most of the time. It's a 16 4x4 grid of pads, and we can get into all the other stuff later, but this is just something that beat makers, producers like to use because it's very, very user-friendly, and it's just fun, to tell you the truth. After that, we have a Keylab 49. The Keylab 49 is just another controller, okay? Meaning it will play everything you need to play. It has, obviously, piano keys. So instead of using a 4x4 grid like the pads, you're gonna go ahead and use piano keys. It's all preference at that point. This is stuff you don't necessarily need to start. And by that, I mean, let's go back to our laptop. All you'll need to start is just some keyboards, some typing keyboard, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna show you what are called DAWs, Digital Audio Workstations, okay? And those are what is gonna allow you to create your music. It's what everybody's using nowadays, okay? Before that, we had tape and analog gear, which still used today, but things are changing, right? Okay, so going back to my laptop, all you need is that typing keyboard, okay? What we're gonna do is we're gonna open up a software program, and this is Machine. So this is what I typically use a lot of times. There's a lot of professional producers that like to use this as well. Machine is simply the format and the software that allows you to create your music, along with some others that I'm gonna show you, for example. And I'll get into the things you need. Let's go into another DAW that everyone's super familiar with, and you could probably use at home, which is GarageBand. So if you have an iPhone, iPad, Apple device, you could go ahead and use GarageBand. GarageBand's still gonna have the capabilities, but it's a little less professional, which makes a difference in the long run. But if you're starting out, GarageBand will work. Another option is something that I really recommend, And shout out to Soundation. I've been using them heavily for the last couple months. This is another DAW. So this is another thing that allows us to create our music. What do they have in common? The ability to create your song. Just that simple, okay? Some people like to say that DAWs have their own different flavors and create things differently for you. So it depends on the producer, it depends on what you want to make. A DAW will do virtually everything you need it to do, even if it's GarageBand, Soundation, Maschine, Ableton. There's a bunch of others out there. So let's go ahead and go back to Maschine, and I'm going to show you some similarities. So in Maschine 2, the basics, you got your rewind or skip, right? You got your play, and then you got your record, and then a loop feature. Main things to think about: metronome, your BPM, your swing, and your time signature, okay? So this is pretty much what's gonna be in every DAW. You're gonna see these functions because obviously you gotta push play and you gotta change your BPM and all this stuff, and I'll get into that. Also in Maschine, I got a CPU meter right here. So that's going to tell me as I make my music how much load I'm putting on that CPU, which is important, okay? So going back to GarageBand here, GarageBand has the same thing. You got your rewind, your back, your play, your record. Here's your beats, your measures, your bars, and your beats. And here's your tempo, your key signature, and your time signature. We can get into that too. And same with Soundation. As you can see, it's all similar. Got your stop, your play, your record, your measure, your bars, your beats, and your BPM, time signature, okay? So hopefully that gives you an idea of, oh, okay, everything's similar. So whatever you're working on, whether it's Maschine, if you're that advanced already, or whether it's GarageBand, say you don't have either and you don't have an Apple device, go to Chrome, go to Google Chrome, type in Soundation. You can start a free account right now. Shout out to Soundation for letting people do that. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna get into some basic music theory for you guys. The basic stuff that you need just to understand how music's gonna work and how you need to understand these things to create, all right? It's all about creation. So if I look at Maschine here, this is what I want you guys to focus on. Track my mouse, we're just gonna look at this keyboard here. It's called a piano roll, okay? So this is my piano roll. Okay, we're gonna talk about theory first, notation. I feel like theory is super important. Rhythm theory is also important, but it's a little easier in my opinion, so we'll go over that second, okay? As you can see, we have my piano roll here. So these are your notes. Every instrument is gonna use the same note, whether it's a drum, whether it's a keyboard, whether it's guitar, violin, viola, you name it. It registers as a frequency, which is your notation, right? So our ears, if you're lucky enough to hear, you hear frequencies. And it doesn't matter what you hear. If I'm knocking on this right here, you hear it because it's a frequency. And believe it or not, that frequency is in a key. So it's in one of our piano keys or a note, okay? So moving on, let's look right here. We have a 2, we have a 3, we have a 4. You're probably wondering what that is. We'll go over that in a second. But let's look at the 2. Or better yet, let's look at the 3. Everybody likes to refer to C3 in the octave of 3. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and look at C2. Let's look at C2. All right, your middle C is 3. The 2 right here stands for an octave. We can go over what that means later. But what is important to understand is it's just a C note, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and go to my Keylab 49 and the piano, and I'm just gonna play the C note right here. Now, if you look at the program on the DAW, it's registering it. It's flashing when I touch it, okay? So that's your C. So in music, you have your major and your minor keys. And inside of that, you have your notation, okay? We already know one of our notes. It's a C, yes. So super easy. It's your alphabet from A to G. That's it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those are your natural notes. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay? So I'll just go over here and I'll just play that real quick. Right? Also, major scale, a C major scale if you needed it, or an A minor scale if you needed it to be, okay? So with that said, let's go ahead and do like a little brain teaser, okay? So if this is C right here, so I'm gonna touch my C. Use your brain. What's the next letter in the alphabet? A D, right? A, B, C, D. So the next white key is simply the next letter in the alphabet. C, D. Next white key, simply the next letter in the alphabet. E, F, G. Now, like I said, you only have A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So when you get to G, you just restart. So we were back at C, D, E, F, G. And then this is where that octave comes in. So we switch, we go back to A, we restart. And now if you look at the program, I'm on this A, but the octave is going to be changing, meaning it's changing in pitch. So let me play two A's for you. Here's an A here, and here's an A here. Let me play a higher A. Here's another A. Those are all A notes, but what changes is that number, or that octave, okay? Which is the pitch, how low something is, and how high something is in pitch, okay? All right, so you got that. Those are your natural notes, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, okay? Every instrument, everything that makes sound could be in one of those notes. Now, Kromatopher, Mr. J, as the kids like to say, what about the black keys? Black keys are your sharps or your flats, okay? Depending on what key signature you're in, you gotta think about whether or not this is a C sharp or a D flat, okay? Don't get confused by that. Basically, all you need to understand is that your black keys are gonna be sharps and flats. All right, so I think that's enough for your notation theory and the stuff that you need to understand as far as notes. Let's go ahead and talk about rhythm. So rhythm is easier to understand in my opinion, and it's just simply because tribal times, beginning of man, we know rhythm, and we started using our hands and started clapping and creating rhythm, okay? So let's go ahead and go to my DAW here, and let's just talk a little bit about the rhythm. So if I go to Soundation right here, you also have these numbers on top, okay? So those are your measures, okay? Measures are simply what keeps track of your song in time or in beats, okay? We also have them here in GarageBand. Super important, those are your measures. Now, those can be versatile. They can change. You can make more, you can make less. Okay, so we're gonna talk about your time signature. 4 beats per measure, 4/4 time, okay? A lot of your popular music is gonna be in 4/4 time. You can change that, and you can have 3/4 time, you can have 5/8 time, whatever. It's just gonna sound a little different, a little funky, right? We wanna keep it very simple and very rounded, and 4/4 is an even number, so it's gonna be real rounded, and everything's gonna fit like a puzzle, and I'll explain more about what that means, okay? Main thing to understand are your measures. So let's go ahead, and I'm in Soundation right now. Let's go ahead and create a basic track, okay? So I can go ahead and show you where your beats are. Okay, so look at the top. These are your measure numbers. Inside of your measure are your beats, okay, and your intervals. But just think about measures and beats. So inside here, you have 4 beats. Why do we have 4 beats? Because we're in 4/4 time, all right? I'm gonna zoom in, and you can see that I start to get more of these lines here, all right? These lines are telling you where your beats are, or your intervals. All right, so I'm not gonna talk about intervals too much. I'm just gonna talk about your straight out beats for now, okay? So this is Soundation. If I go ahead and grab my cursor here, it's gonna track my beats when I push play. And I'll just push play real quick. Okay? So you don't hear anything because there's no music there, but we need to hear a metronome, and we'll get into that in a second. Main point is, this guy tracks your beats. If I put him here at the beginning, you can barely even see him, but that is beat 1, okay? So that's gonna be beat 1. Let's go ahead and go to machine, and I'll show you the same thing. There is your little cursor, you know, the thing that keeps track of your time. If I go ahead and hit restart, see how we started at the beginning? I'll do it one more time. Okay, so you get the idea. And same with GarageBand. GarageBand is gonna have the same thing. It has to keep track of your song. You got to know where you are in your song. If this cursor wasn't here, you get confused real easy. But the beat 1 is always at the beginning. GarageBand is very easy to see. It even tells you right here, bar, which stands for measure. Okay, we're going to use the technical term measure instead of bars. And then your beats. So we're on beat 1, measure 1, or bar 1. Okay, let's go back to Soundation. All right, so here's Soundation. If I'm looking at these gray lines here, it very plainly tells me what beat that is. So the next gray line would be beat 2. Following gray line, 3, 4. Okay, so you're just counting to 4. When you get to your next measure, this is your measure number, not your beat number, this is your measure number. When you get to your next measure, all you do is restart your count. Start counting 1, 2, 3, 4 again, okay? So I'll go over that one more time with the cursor. Beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. Restart in measure 2, beat 1, beat 2, beat 3, beat 4. Okay, and then you would just keep doing the same thing over and over again because that's your time signature, okay? Okay, so let's go ahead and go over to GarageBand. GarageBand is going to show you the same thing, right? It's going to show you your 4 beats. So there's beat 1, next gray line, beat 2, next gray line, beat 3, next gray line, beat 4, all right? Then you move over to your next measure, but you got to restart counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? All right, so now that you get the idea of what that looks like on the DAW, what we need to do is we need to go over some basic rudiments, some basic rhythm, so we can understand how we can create music. Because without rhythm, obviously everything's gonna be silent, it's gonna be flat, it's gonna be quiet. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna jump over to Machine and I'm gonna play some drums, but we're gonna play basic notation, rhythm notation. Okay, with all that knowledge, with all that power, we're gonna go ahead now and we're gonna hop into Machine as your DAW and my Machine controller, just to play with some different kind of rhythm notation, okay? So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna just create a different group here so I can put some drum sounds in it, all right? So here's my sounds. I'm on drums already. I'm gonna go ahead and pick a sound effect. Let's go with the kick. Let's do something fat. Here's all my sound effects in Machine. Go with that. It was nice and loud so you guys can hear that at home. So what I did is I just registered that sound to this pad 1 here. Okay, so that's just a kick pad. Sounds a little nasty, sounds a little distorted. Depends on what you want to do with your music. Sometimes that'll sound great, sometimes it'll sound bad. But before we get to that, let's go ahead and talk about some rudiments or some rhythm. When you're playing your music, you need to hear what's called a metronome. Okay, so the metronome, all it's going to do is click. And it's basically just going to tell you your beats and where they're located. So let's just push play and listen to a metronome. This is my metronome icon right here on Machine. Okay? It's highlighted, meaning it's on. I'm just going to push my space bar, which means play. That's your metronome. Now some of you guys who have already dabbled in music, you're like, yeah, Kromatopher, you're putting me to sleep. That's okay, we need to learn the basics, right? So when you listen to this click, you gotta hear the distinction. There's one that's different from the other. Others. Okay? So that higher pitch, that's gonna be beat 1, every time, all the time. Even if you change your time signature, that's still gonna be beat 1, okay? So when you hear it in a DAW, that's gonna be beat 1. Let's go ahead and go to GarageBand and do the same thing. So here's my metronome icon over here. Push play. As I said before, there's one that's different from the other. Has a different tone to it. That's gonna be beat 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay? So with that, we're gonna go back to Machine and we're gonna push play. I have my sound effect here. Okay, and I'm gonna touch it a little lighter so it doesn't. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna play what is called a whole note. Okay, we're thinking rudiment, we're thinking rhythm. A whole note is going to be playing for beat 1 and resting for the remainder of your beats. So if we're in 4/4 time signature, you're going to play whatever instrument you're playing. In our case, it's a bass drum, right? You're going to play that on beat 1, and then don't play, rest for the remaining beats, 2, 3, and 4. So it's going to go like this. I'll play it without the metronome. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? That's a whole note. All right? That is one of your rudiments. That is one of your rhythm. What we're going to do now is we're going to play it with a click track just so you know how to be in time. In time is super important. Unless you want to be more of like a Jay Dilla, a hip hop head who likes to be just slightly out of time. But for the most part, and especially for your beginners out there, you gotta be in time. You gotta make sure that you are on your beats, okay? This is what I mean by in time. I'm gonna push play. I'm listening to my metronome. A whole note was when you played on beat 1 and only beat 1. So let me find that click, okay? And I'm gonna play on that click. Okay? That's super simple as it gets. That's a whole note. It's gonna be used a lot in music, and it'll probably be used a lot in your music. This time we're gonna talk about quarter notes, okay? So quarter notes are, simply put, every beat. So you have 4 beats in this time signature, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. With any instrument you play, you want to play on every beat. Those would be considered quarter notes. Let me show you an example. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So those are your quarter notes. Let's play it with the metronome real quick. Find your beat, 1. Let's start again. Okay, now let's do a mixture. Let's do a whole note, and then we'll do quarter notes. And then we'll do a whole note, and then we'll do quarter notes. Okay, check it out. Okay, so right off the bat, I'm already starting to get a little groove. All I did was change 2 rhythms. That added enough variation to make my drum, my one drum, speak just a little bit more, okay? Let's go over a different one. So I taught you whole notes, I taught you quarter notes. Let's go ahead and learn half notes. What's half of 4? 2, right? 2 beats is all you will play for. So whatever instrument you're playing, you'll play for 2 beats. But we're gonna keep it the way it should be, which is 1 and 3, okay? 1 and 3, those are called half notes, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and just do it, for example. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? With the metronome. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So that was half notes. You did 2 beats. You did half of 4, which is 2 beats, but we did beats 1 and 3 only. Okay, so I'm gonna teach you one more rhythm or rudiment, okay? I'm gonna teach you eighth notes. Now, right now we're at a fast BPM. I didn't mind changing it. We're at 120, okay? 120 BPM. That just means 120 beats per minute, and we'll go over that again soon. But for eighth notes, there's a special way to count them. Our quarter notes were 1, 2, 3, 4. Our eighth notes are going to be counted 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Quarter notes, 1, 2, 3, 4. Eighth notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So let's go back to my beat pad here, and I'm going to do my eighth notes this time. Here's my eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Right? It's going to get tricky playing it at 120 BPM because it's fast, but take a listen. okay? So that sounded messy, and it doesn't necessarily sound the best, but that is one of your rudiments. Those are eighth notes. Once again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, okay? I can teach you another one and another one on top of that, but I think this is a good place to start. We'll go over the other ones in the future. Lastly, let's go back to my DAW, and let's just mess with BPM. And I think this is about time. We're about to wrap it up. I hope you guys have learned a lot. But before we wrap it up, let's talk about BPM. Let's talk about tempo. As I said, it's 120. Stands for beats per minute. So in 60 seconds, you're gonna have 120 beats. 120 of your 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? Once again, let's listen to it. That's 120. That's how fast your tempo is, okay? The click. Let's pick a different one, and let's go with 90. So I'm gonna change this, and I'm gonna do 90. So now we're gonna slow it down. You're gonna notice the clicks are substantially slower. So check it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? So that's a different tempo. You can have all kinds of different tempos. Let's just experiment. Let's do another one for fun. We'll do 170. It's gonna be faster, right? Because it's a higher number. Check it out. Back to 120. And back to 90. Okay? All right, so other than that, you guys, I think this is a good place to stop video 1, and we could go ahead and go into some more advanced things. To recap, we went over some equipment, we went over some notation, and we went over some rudiments or some rhythm, okay? With those 3 pieces of knowledge, you're ready to go and you're ready to get started. So next video, we're gonna get at you, and we're gonna go ahead and make a beat. Try to make a beat, all right? Don't judge me too much. My name's Kromatopher. You guys have a good evening. It's a pleasure to be with you. It's a pleasure to be in your home. I'll talk to you next time. Peace.